Premiership Rugby was back this weekend. Saw some pretty good games after the Autumn International. Still a few big guns missing from their teams, but still, plenty of good action. I watched a couple of the games and have gone and watched the highlights and stats and whatnot. The others, we'll go through the games quickly. And as always, you guys can let me know your thoughts on how things went. Bath and Exeter first up. Highlights for me for this one. I knew the result. Bath. It's one of the closer results, but man, still chasing that first win. A try to them through Reed, and for Exeter it was Josefa Scott, and 77 minutes, Sam Simmons to put Exeter in front when Bath was still leading. Your man Orlando Bailey is a pretty solid goal kicker, but it ends up being 23-16 with that penalty at the death to kind of extend the lead. I mean, it seemed like a pretty back and forth game, exchanging of penalties and tries. It was still locked up at like 13-all after an hour. So, yeah, it seemed to be a bit of an arm wrestle game. But, Sam Simmons from close range, you've seen him do it a million times, and he just does it again. And you can see the Exeter guys were pretty pumped to get that one. The crowd at the Rec seemed pretty decent. But, their team just can't buy a win at the moment. I suppose, in the scheme of things, at least they didn't look terrible from what I've seen. Underhill got through a ton of tackles. He makes 17 out of 18. Interestingly, Sam Simmons is the top run meter guy for Exeter with like 33, which is pretty low. I guess the run meters in the game are 298 to 214, so pretty low in the scheme of things. But concerningly for Bath, the penalty count's 17 to 8. So Exeter, seemingly, without having seen the full game, able to kind of piggyback their way up the field. So if you're looking for concerningly for Exeter, though, their tackling percentage is 79, which even a Super Rugby team would look at and go, that's not very good. So there's certainly some work-ons, but for Bath, it's another loss, and for Exeter, it's a win. Nothing spectacular about it, but you certainly take a win on the road anytime because nothing is guaranteed. Like I said, Exeter got a penalty at the end to really push it beyond being a super close game, but there it is. Possession 48-52, territory 46-54, so that's Exeter having the edge there, but as I said, Bath had more run meters. Clean breaks 3-zip, interestingly, to Bath. So not the most open running rugby game seemingly, but as I mentioned, solid enough win for Exeter without kind of setting the world alight. They are 5-4 in fifth. Now Exeter, Bath are still none from 8. Bath are away to Northampton next, and Exeter are at home to Saracens. So you feel like, based on what we've seen in other results, both Bath and Exeter will probably need to be a bit better next week. Bristol and Northampton is another one I watched on the old highlights. Bristol's also having a pretty rotten season. Not quite as bad as Bath's season, but yes, seemingly not the best. 36 points to 20 at home is, that's not close. 16 points. It's not a hiding, but that's not the best result, man. They had a cracking start. They got a really early try through Kerr, and they started off the second half pretty much the same way through Leua. But then the rest of the halves, they were kind of reliant on the boot of Callum Sheedy to get them some points, whereas Northampton tries through Hill, Freeman, they got 2, and then Furbank. Those last 2 tries, Alex Mitchell had hands in them. The second Freeman one and the Furbank one, that's kind of when you knew it was game over. Because I went into those highlights actually not knowing the result, fortunately. But it was like 7-0, then a couple of penalties to Northampton, so 7-6. But the third and fourth tries, like I mentioned, were just the ones that really pushed it kind of beyond the range of Bristol. Bristol had a yellow card, which was not going to help as well. That's a pretty disappointing result at home for Bristol. What's going on with their season? Fricka has 82 run meters and 3 defenders beaten for Bristol. Augustus, the number 8 for Northampton, beats 5 defenders and has 30 odd run meters, so kind of similar effort to old Sam Simmons in the previous game, but the story of that game is Bristol kind of starting each half in a cracking fashion, and they're not able to really push on, whereas Northampton, 4 tries to 2. Seemingly pretty deserving winners in that one. Run meters 484 to 364, so a fair bit more open. than the previous game. Clean breaks 6 apiece. Remember the first game had 3 in total. Offloads 13-9, so a fair bit of chucking it round. It seems like the scrums were a bit messy from the stats. Penalty count a bit more even, 14-11 with Bristol conceding a few more. Tackling percentages are in the 80s, low 80s, so decent without being anything to kind of really write home about. But maybe that's reflected in the fact that there was, 6 clean breaks apiece and a heap of run meters. So yeah, it seems like it was a pretty fun game. But for Bristol, pretty bad news. Northampton, they are looking pretty good. They're 5-3 as well. They are in 4th. Bristol are 3-5, so the opposite record. They are in 11th, wrong end of the table. They're away to Gloucester, and Northampton are at home to Bath, like I mentioned. So Northampton, God, that dog, be quiet. Oh, it's raining. Maybe he just wants to go inside the house. Gloucester are looking decent as well, so it's going to be certainly a challenging one. Speaking of Gloucester, I did watch the Gloucester and Wasps game. Now, this one was kind of floating through the old social media channels. I didn't watch it live, but I watched it. And I couldn't remember the result, but I knew it had been a dramatic finish. So I wanted to watch this one, and it was certainly pretty good value for the watch. I mean, Wasps had tries through Young, Ogra, Barbary, and 2 to Umanga at the end when they seemed dead and buried. And then Gloucester, May, a couple to 12 trees, and Clement as well. So, yeah, man, a heap of tries. It seemed pretty cold. I know there's been some pretty bad weather over in the UK of late. So, it seemed pretty cold. A few guys in the old leggings. And this one, kind of don't blame them. Yeah. But, yeah, nice start to Gloucester, honestly. They were, 13-0 up? A try to Johnny May and some penalties. So, they were looking pretty good. But then Wasps had one of the most beautiful maul tries you'll ever see. Just one of those ones where they chuck it up, it comes back down, and they immediately are able to change the point of the attack. So the defending players are kind of stuck, and by the time they react, the changed point of attack is kind of moving past them. Like, as much as we all like seeing wingers kind of flying down at top speed, that was just as kind of beautiful. I thought that was really a phenomenal effort. But yeah, 12 trees, got another one. It was a really kind of beautiful move. Like Gloucester were putting together some really, really sweet moves. There was a weird moment where Wasps were kind of saved from conceding a try when they'd taken a quick line out, which Gloucester ended up pouncing on because the AR had actually touched the ball. So he denied Gloucester a try when Wasps had taken a quick line out, which they mucked up. And Brad Shields was still arguing the ref, Luke Pearce. I don't know what the hell he was thinking. Yeah, he's just saved you from conceding a try. Maybe just be quiet. I don't know. But it was a very, very kind of bizarre moment. Hookart had put in a really nice try-saving tackle for that one, to be fair. But yeah, there was a maul try before half-time to kind of keep Wasps alive. It was like if they didn't have a maul, they kind of would have been truly dead and buried. But yeah, 23-12 at halftime, still pretty decent, especially then. 12 trees gets us double, and 30 points to 12 is almost game over, but I guess there's heaps of time to play. And sure enough, Barbary gets one, May gets a yellow card, and then during that yellow card period, bang, bang, 2 tries to Umanga. Pretty flash, like, he knocks it on at the death. It's not really his fault, I don't think, Umanga, because I think Barbary half stands in his way and motions like he's going to go for the ball, just enough to put Umanga off as they're kind of hot on attack again. They could have got a third one, but Umanga knocks it on, so it's a kind of pretty brutal one for him. He goes from the hero scoring those 2 tries to get them back in it to the villain for knocking it on, but yeah, it did kind of float near Barbary over his shoulder, and I think that put enough hesitation in Umanga's mind that he dropped it. But yeah, there you go. Sometimes that's just the way it goes. Run meters 474 to 506, so a lot of running rugby in this game. Possession 56-44, territory 54-46, both in Wasps' favour. Clean breaks though 4-9, with Gloucester able to generate those. Like I said, man, they were pulling off some really slick moves in this game. Heap of defenders beaten 32-22 in Wasps' favour. So yeah, pretty entertaining game. Like I mentioned, Kyle Moyle, the fullback for Gloucester, 120 run meters, 2 clean breaks, beats 4 defenders beaten. Like, he was dangerous. Jack Clement, 19 out of 23 tackles is a pretty good shift. I think he's a pretty young man, isn't he? So Tom Willis, 50 run meters, 6 defenders beaten. So yeah, there were certainly some good shifts on display, but ultimately Gloucester able to hold on. The coach, what's his name, Skivington, looked pretty bloody nervous up in the coach's box. Don't blame him because his side were in virtually an unassailable position and they almost threw it away. But yeah, credit to Gloucester. Credit to Gloucester, but credit to Wasps for keeping on fighting, man. They really pushed them right till the death, but not to be. 3 and 5, they are in 9th. Gloucester are 4 wins, 3 losses and a draw. They are in 6th, so not going too bad. They're home to Bristol, and I've written Wasps are away to Wasps, but that can't be right. Away to Worcester. There you go. The other games that I watched was Harlequins and London Irish, and I genuinely didn't know the result. I only watched it yesterday, which would have been after the fact. But yeah, I genuinely didn't know the result, so it was quite a good one to watch. And yeah, 19 points to 22. London Irish, second win of the season for them, pretty good one. To go into the Stoop and pick up an away win. Crowd seemed pretty lively, which was pleasing. It seemed windy as well. At the first kick of the game, I could see one of the guys having to hold the ball down for Paddy Jackson as he lined up the shot. So yeah, I guess it was a theme across the games this weekend, but yeah, very kind of tough conditions at times. Tommaso Allen avoided a yellow card with a bit of head-on-head contact, which is one of those ones which you come to expect yellow cards from these days, but the ref, who was initially thinking yellow, decided not to go with yellow because the attacking player had kind of stepped back into him. So, yeah, the commentary team seemed pretty happy with it. They said it was common sense. Yeah, common sense. It's something that you don't see that much of. Like, the refs tend to just go with the frameworks rather than what seems like common sense. I don't know. So, I mean, obviously guys need to get their bodies lower, but it wasn't like... Yeah, it was the Wales... If you watch the Wales game... where Adam Baird got tackled, like that was head on head, and that was just a guy coming in hot and way too high. This wasn't anything like that, so yeah, it's probably a fair result for Allen. He actually goes off a bit later injured, but and so does Adam Coleman. Like both sides lost some pretty key players, which was unfortunate. But yeah, sometimes that just happens. The first try, I mean, Baird gets 2. Is it Baird or Beard? He gets 2, the winger, on 22 minutes and 67. His first one, I mean, London Irish were pretty robbed by the bounce of that ball. That was brutal. A bouncing ball. And Harlequins were putting a lot of dinky little kicks through that were causing absolute havoc. So, yeah, the bounce of the ball sometimes goes your way as a winger. And he did well to be in the right place at the right time. He got that try. Well, that's the kind of stuff that'll give the London Irish guys nightmares. Crevy got one. Man, he gets so many tries for London Irish, doesn't he? They love them all. Crevy got one, Simmons got one, which I'll get to later, and then White got one, but Crevy's one. It's a maul try, of course. And the commentator described him as, what did he say? It was like a little South American mole. A little South American mole. Like, what on earth? The guy's like 6 foot and 110 kilos or something, whatever that is in stone. He's a big man. I wouldn't be called him a little mole. But I guess because he burrows over is the idea there. But yeah. Crevy gets another try. He's been so good with that with London Irish, hasn't he? Harlequins, I mean, they're a fun team to watch. They're very slick, and they like to vary the old, the line-out moves and the offloads, so very fun. If it doesn't always kind of result in a try. But, just very fun to watch. I mean, I was admiring London Irish's defence as well, able to kind of shut them down at times too, because not always easy, right? Because they are chucking the ball around. I said Quinn's line-out moves are causing havoc. Their little kicks over causing havoc. But London Irish can light things up as well. Eventually, Rob Simmons, of all people, goes over for a tryout in the right wing. And that was really London Irish chucking it around. So I never thought I would see that. I've seen Simmons play hundreds of times. Hundreds? At least 100 times for the Waratahs, surely. He's played a lot of times over in Australia. I never saw him. Or with the Reds, played for both, I think. I don't think I ever saw him dive over on the right wing. Come on. But that was a proper thing of beauty. Northmore got knocked out by Curtis Rhoda in a carry as well, which was pretty concerning. So, I mean, yeah, pretty rough game. But, White powered over for his try from kind of... from close-ish range to really quieten the crowd down. But they still got behind their boys, and your man Beard got his double. So, that kind of made it game on. London Irish probably could have had one try at the death, but they missed out on it, and they were kind of lucky that, like, Hugh Jones ended up having a big line break, and London Irish kind of had to hold on for grim death, but they managed to get it done. They probably would have liked to score that final try, which they ended up fluffing. If they'd passed, I think it was one final pass outright would have done it, but yeah, not to be. So we had an edge of the seat one, but that's how it finished. 22 points to 19. Run meters finished 483 to 334. So heap of running. Possession and territory are pretty evenly split. Mauls though 8 to 1 with London Irish. They love a maul. Clean breaks 5 to 10 with Harlequins having the 10. They love to chuck it around. They love to find the space. So yeah, very kind of contrasting numbers. Both sides tackled though at exactly the same number, 88%. Tackle count 141, 123 with Quins having to make 20 odd more. Your man Beard, 5 defenders beaten, 3 clean breaks, 86 run meters. Guy was finding space. Pearson for London Irish, the flanker, 16 from 16 tackles is a proper shift. Yeah, London Irish, they are now 2 wins, 4 losses and 3 draws. Weird record that they've got. They are in 7th. I think the lead changed about 4 times in this game, so it was a really good watch. Quins are 5 and 3. There's a few teams on 5 and 3. They are in 3rd. So London Irish got Newcastle at home, and Harlequins are away to Leicester, who've been on the bye and thus far undefeated. The last 2 games, Newcastle and Worcester. I think this one was rearranged, wasn't it, because of the weather? It still looked pretty horrendous. The pitch was more white than green. But yeah, 24 points apiece this draw. There was no commentary. They had not really put any graphics on the screen. I'm assuming because it was rearranged. They didn't have the normal people who would have been there the day before to do like the commentary and stuff. They would have had other commitments. So yeah, no commentary, no time on the screen, no score displayed. So it was hard watching the highlights to know what on earth was going on. But yeah, very snowy. It was a bit of a story of some. I did like Newcastle. I mean, Newcastle loves a maul as well, but they vary it up. Like from the highlights anyway, one maul set, and in the next attacking line out, they spin it. Like keeps defenses on their toes. Like if you always maul it, I mean, unless the other team just can't stop you, they eventually work you out. So they keep it varied, which was really pleasing to see. Some kind of slick ones. Yeah, there were tries through, was McGuigan, got 2. Radwan got 1, and then Cooper got 1. For Worcester, it was Beck, Hathnell, and Searle. So, yeah, it was kind of, I forget, so was the time? 75 minutes. I know it was late that Worcester kind of were able to even it up. But, yeah, I mean, the try of the game for me was Kyle Cooper. Goodness me. He was steaming over. It looks like it was the game winner on 72 minutes. Replacement front rower, steaming over from about 20 meters. It will get longer in the telling, but yeah, that was just fantastic to see him. They thought they'd won the game, obviously, but yeah, Newcastle did kind of have one last kind of attacking crack at the death, but they ended up knocking it on, which is maybe to be expected given the conditions. But yeah, I mean, I guess for Worcester, it's a decent result because Newcastle have looked pretty good this season. So to go away from home in those tough conditions and still come away with at least the 2 points, could have been worse. Certainly could have been worse. Run meters were 380 to 377, so pretty even. But possession 61-39, territory 61-39. So Newcastle will look back with that and be a little bit frustrated. Clean breaks 6 to 9, so Worcester able to generate the clean breaks. Mauls 12 to 2. So Newcastle, another side that love a wee maul. Penalties conceded as lopsided as 4 for Newcastle, 13 for Worcester. So how on earth Worcester came away with even the draw, statistically, apart from the run meters, they've been smashed in virtually every department. I mean, I guess they did have more kind of clean breaks by 3. So, yeah, credit to them. Really well done. Like sometimes you've just got to take your opportunities, and looks like that what they did. Red one, 71 run meters, 2 clean breaks, 2 defenders beaten. Always seems to have a good shift. The halfback for Worcester, what's his name? Simpson. His numbers were great. 74 run meters and a clean break for a halfback. Goodness me, good times. But yeah, Newcastle, they were away to London Irish. 4 wins, 3 losses, and a draw in 8th. Worcester are home to Wasps. 2 wins, 6 losses, and a draw. They are in 12th, and the last game was Saracens and SAL. The red card is probably going to be the talking point of this one, but that didn't come until the second half. Again, only a highlight to this one, but Vincent Koch got the try in the first half. They did get 2 more through Maitland and Maylands, but that was after the red card had been. For Sale, also 2 tries after the red card, Ben Curry and Rafi Quirk. But yeah, the red card is pretty bloody unfortunate. I mean, Koch's one was a bit of power to go over early and some penalties, so 13-0 half-time. But the commentators from the highlights seem to think that Sale had been kind of turning the screws at times, but unable to get on the scoreboard, so it was by no means kind of a lopsided game. But then McGuigan, what's he doing? He gets riled up. He gets absolutely riled up, and he throws Nick Tompkins on the ground and then throws him again. It is madness. It is absolute madness. Well, that's about as dumb a red card as you ever concede. I mean, I hate the kind of rubbing guys on the head and giving them that, but you can't react to that stuff, man. That's just niggle, but if you react to it, you're going to be gone, and sure enough, he is absolutely gone. So, red card, and sure enough, they get a try out wide. Funnily enough, through Maitland. Billy Vunipola had some pretty bloody good hands in the build-up for that one. I mean, Ben Curry did get a sniping one over to keep them alive, but then Maylands' try on 72 minutes, which was only, 10 minutes later? That was pretty much the nail in the coffin. They did keep fighting. Rob Dupree got a line break. Rafi Quirk ended up getting a try. He's got some wheels, but that only made it 25-14. So, yep, they kept fighting, but it was not going to be anything other than a consolation for them. So, run meters 399 to 558. So, that indicates Sale were pretty good value. They had more possession and more territory, did Sale. Saracens had to make pretty much double the tackles with 200 to 106. But Sale, 20 turnovers conceded is too high. I mean, Saracens had 15, which is still decently high, but 20 is pretty massive. Shagan had 116 run meters and 4 defenders beaten, although I don't remember seeing much of him in the highlights. Tompkins, Itoje, and Ezekwe all had 20 tackles, which is a huge shift from those 3. Quirk, 68 run meters. Dan Dupree had like 80. He seemed to be pretty massive. Ben Curry had 15 out of 17 tackles, so yeah, seems like they had some solid play, but couldn't get anything out of the game. So yeah, Saracens are away to Exeter. That should be a pretty interesting one. They are 6 wins, a loss, and a draw. Saracens, and the Sale guys are on the bye. 3 wins, 5 losses, and a draw for them. So Sale are in 10th, which is pretty disappointing. Saracens are in 2nd. But yeah, interesting times. Like I mentioned, some pretty crazy stuff this weekend. Some good tries, and yeah, red card, which is a bit disappointing. Rob Simmons out on the right wing. I'm going to be having some kind of dreams about that. I'm not sure if there'll be nightmares if Rob Simmons is coming into my dreams, but the fact that he was out on the right wing, scoring a pretty good try, was certainly kind of memorable. But anyway, you guys let me know your thoughts. Can you see Bath getting a win anytime soon? Do you think Leicester come back and continue to win, or do you think they can be challenged? What's going on with Bristol? Do you think Exeter will have a chance against Sarries next week? I mean, they weren't exactly convincing against Bath, but next week will certainly be a different story. You guys let me know your thoughts. If you want England rugby gear, they've probably got a couple of hours left by the time I get this video up on their Black Friday, Cyber Monday sale. I think it was 25% off last time I checked, so I'll put a link in the description for them if you want to grab yourself some England gear before the sale ends. But otherwise, you guys take care, and I'll talk to you soon. See you later.